Let's get ready to live stream. Wait, that's not even the right sport. I'm sorry, gang. We're here to talk about a UFC movie. Yes, The Smashing Machine by Benny Safdie came out last weekend. It's not doing well. It had a budget. It's one of those weird things where people either think, where's all the money on the screen? Versus how did this movie only cost $50 million to make, where you've got other things like One Battle After Another that was north of 130 somehow. But audiences don't seem to have connected with the Rock's big dramatic debut. We're going to talk about, us being Earth's Mightiest Critics, whether or not that's fair. Should they be giving this movie more attention, if not necessarily more love? And here tonight with me are Katie Glidewell, the blonde in front. Welcome. And Jeff York of the Establishing Shot and Pipeline Artists. Welcome, Jeff.
Nice to be here.
Jeff, I kind of know where you fall on this, but Katie, I don't think I know what your thoughts are on The Smashing Machine. So we'll kind of get the high level assessment, and then we'll do the synopsis. We're going to change things up a bit, just like Mark Kerr, who is played by Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson in this movie, changed the game of physical contact sports or something.
You want me to tell you what the movie's about or what I think of it?
Oh, sorry.
Sorry,
yeah,
I got confused.
Pardon my word salad. I need tongs. No. Yeah. What did you think? I'm sorry, is my voice cracked? What did you think of The Smashing Machine?
I thought The Smashing Machine was kind of a soft thud. I think that the makeup is absolutely incredible because there's a number of scenes where I legit did not know that was Dwayne Johnson on screen. And kudos to everyone involved with them. I mean, this is a man who has his own, very signature tattoos and stuff. And obviously, the majority of the world knows who The Rock is. Unrecognizable. So kudos to them. I thought he did, this is a transformative role for him. It's his breakaway to get into more dramatic, serious, away from his, what's The Rock cooking kind of over the top sort of things. And I think he did a great job. The thing with the film for me is that I thought it was fine. I just didn't have an oomph for it. And the story from, or I don't know. As I've said many times when I on this show and anytime I talk about films, I go in not knowing anything. I just know it had Dwayne Johnson. I knew it was written, directed by Benny Safdie, and I knew Emily Blunt's in it. That's it. So I didn't know anything about Mark Kerr. I didn't know anything about his girlfriend or what he went through, or that he was a pioneer in UFC. And he did go through a lot, but to be honest, I don't necessarily know if this is a story that maybe needed to have a biopic. I don't know. I was feeling like at the end there was going to be some big reveal or big catastrophic event that was like, oh my gosh, how did he get through that? And it was like, oh, he lost, and now he's pushing a grocery cart 25 years later. I'm like, okay. And scene. So yeah, sorry, spoilers.
No, it's all right. Well, I mean, pushing a grocery cart could mean anything. So yeah.
Yes, right. Exactly. There's a lot of metaphorically, but it's like I said, I thought it was fine. Dwayne Johnson, the makeup are the stands out to me. And the actor, Ryan Bader, I believe it is, who played Mark Coleman. I think I'd like to see maybe him do a film about possibly where he ends up Ryan Bader. But yeah, so it's like lukewarm. It's not going to be on my worst. It's not going to be on my best at all. It's going to be a film that I watched in 2025.
Okay. Jeff, give us your kind of high level assessment of this film.
I think it's a very good performance by Dwayne Johnson, as well as most of the other cast, but I don't think there's much of a story that equals what I think the efforts of those actors are. I think it feels shallow almost as a story because, we've seen the acting. I mean, we've seen the action and the sports kind of stuff before, whether it's going all the way back to Somebody Up There Likes Me or a Rocky or a Creed, even, let alone, a couple of years ago, the Iron Claw and stuff like that. And they do that very well here. I mean, I think they recreate that, and that's probably where most of the money went in getting that whole thing to look like it's authentic. But there's not much substance about who the characters are and what else is going on with them. I mean, like Katie said, when he loses two big significant matches in this, it doesn't seem that devastating. It doesn't seem to push him back that far. If anything, I think it's more of what it does to his relationship with his girlfriend, Dawn, or how she affects his career and stuff like that. I found that much more interesting than what's going on in the ring. And it's a brutal game. And there's a bunch of things they could have dramatized more. I mean, I think, to me, if I was looking at this as just if somebody said, read this script, what do you think of the script? I'd say it's a story about a lonely man that you need to make more lonely. And I think by that, he's in a foreign country. The rules are kind of changing as they go along. A lot of stuff is lost in translation. The money's a little fudgy. There's a question about endorsements and is it on the up and up? Some of the people are coming in, don't even speak the language English. So he's really kind of alone. And I think that's why he was so close to his coach and buddy. And then his girlfriend, she's this attractive woman who really wears tight outfits, like a lot of times those kind of women are, who are the girlfriends of athletes, whether they're
at least in movies,
at least in the movies, they always sort of play that sort of cliche up. But what's her story? What do they like together? Why are they together? Is it because she thinks he's going to be a big, make a lot of money, or we don't even get we get just very little bit of his backstory. Like, he goes from legitimate wrestling into this kind of stuff, which is, it's a hybrid and it's weird and it's excessively violent. And even, all that stuff in that period from the World Wrestling to that was sneered upon. It was not considered like, oh, this is, National League football or stuff like that. I mean, I think even today, the MMA and some of those kind of things, while they're very, very popular, don't have quite the legitimacy and the superstardom and some of those kind of things as maybe they thought they would back in those days when they were pioneers in it. I just found it to be well done, well acted. Katie's right, the makeup's good, but I wanted more. I didn't feel I really knew that much about who these people were at the end of 2 hours. And while they recreated the fight scenes in the ring very well, I felt that despite all of Dwayne Johnson's efforts, his character was almost two-dimensional.
All right. Well, thank you for setting the table. It's a weird thing. I have a love and not really love relationship with this movie. It's not love-hate, because I don't really hate anything about it. I feel like there is a missing ingredient, and I can't quite pinpoint what it is. I do need to see this movie again, because I think I messaged you a bit about this, Jeff. I have the sports biopic so thoroughly ingrained in my head, just the kind of the cliches, the tropes, the formulas, the beats, story structure, that when I didn't get that from this film, I almost didn't quite know what to do with it. I was expecting something more, something different, and I almost had to recalibrate a couple of times in the movie. I'm like, oh, that's right, this is an A24 film. And I think because it's Dwayne Johnson, I keep wanting to call him The Rock, because that's how I've always thought about him. I think this is his bid for, if he were to get any kind of Oscar push for this and to win, I think that would be sort of his Mark Kerr moment of legitimacy to say, look, no one can call me The Rock anymore. I mean, I know he hasn't been that for a long time. He's been Dwayne Johnson. He's made that kind of a brand name, but people still think him as The Rock. Not necessarily as that, arched eyebrow, sunglasses in the wrestling ring guy, but he's still, he's The Rock. I really admired what they did with this character. I think there's a lot. It's strange because it's a paradox. There is simultaneously a lot to him that we see in this movie and not a lot to him.
Yeah.
He doesn't have big dramatic movie screenplay arcs and moments and interactions with other characters. This movie felt very real to me. And sometimes real life is kind of boring. And it's like you're checking in on your neighbors and you're like, why are they together? And I think since we have the spoilers up down below, I'm going to flash forward to the end of the film. Dawn, who's Emily Blunt's character, and Mark have a very tumultuous relationship. And we see it kind of, I don't even know if we can say it descends, because we join their relationship already in progress. They've been together for a while. They're already living together. So they have frequent fights, and they have some ugly fights. But I can't say that, oh, this has been building and it's just blown up, or this is just how it's always been from like maybe 3 weeks after they started dating, and they can't quit each other. But at the end, there's the coda, as Katie mentioned. We flash forward to the real life Mark Kerr. This movie takes place, as the opening titles helpfully remind us, between 1997 and the year 2000. And then we flash forward to 3 years.
3 years. That was one of the things that it's like, oh, so there's going to be something monumental that's happening, and I'm like, and then no.
Well, no, but a lot of monumental things did happen in this story. It happened for UFC, and it happened. Mark Kerr was the person, he was kind of the pioneer of that, from what I understand. At least that's the movie's point of view. But because that was kind of the end of him, he got it to the international kind of popularity at the end of this film. The 8th edition of this fight, and I'm blanking on what it's called, unfortunately. It's like Supreme or something like that. They announced that, oh, this is going to be televised in the States now. People are starting to catch on. But that was like simultaneously, he worked so hard to make this thing real and big. And just as it crested that achievement, he was out. He was kind of out of the game. And that's sort of the tragedy of the whole thing. He's still revered and respected, but he's not mentioned in the same breath as like Conor McGregor. And that's one thing I would kind of push back on, Jeff, is I think people back then thought that this could be a big thing, and it did become a big thing. I mean, UFC is huge. It doesn't have the same, every Sunday is being televised on NBC cachet as like NFL football or something, but you do have nationally and internationally recognized figures like Conor McGregor. He's acting in movies now. And there's, although in fairness, it's like him and Joe Rogan as a commentator. Those are kind of the two like mainstays that I can think of. I'm not a big, UFC fan, but I do acknowledge that it has had a cultural moment. Sorry, go ahead. I'm going to stop rambling for a second.
No. I was just going to say, I didn't mean to downplay it like I think it's a nothing sport. Not at all. I just don't think it's ever quite. I mean, a number of actors and people of fame have come out of wrestling either, and it's laughed at as a sport. It's fake for starters. This is not that fake, but it's also not that. It's not in the same breath as the NBA, the MLB, and the NFL. It just isn't. I mean, most people in America who follow it are not the influencers. They aren't. They're just. It's not top tier. Tennis isn't top tier anymore either. Golf is not as much as either. I mean, I'm not saying that. I just think they thought this was going to become the next big thing, and I'm not so sure it's ever quite made it to the A list. But maybe that's me. From where I sit, I don't see anything topping those other sports. And you can look at the amount of money, the amount of teams, the amount of stars, the amount of people who've come out of it, all that kind of stuff. What I think, though, to maybe serve it up for a better purpose in this discussion, though, is that should have been more of a discussion here in the movie, because it isn't legitimate when they're doing it. It's only being sort of heralded over in Japan, and even over there, it's shady. It's dealing with corrupt people. The money isn't straight. The rules aren't straight. There's danger. He could get killed anytime because nobody's really reffing this shit particularly well, that kind of stuff. There's part of the story, and they don't make much of that.
I know, and I think, but here's the thing. I think that story will be told someday, but this is Mark Kerr's story. He does his involvement with the shadiness, with the uncertainty of the market and everything. We get that point of view in this film. It's not, again, I'm going to reference Any Given Sunday, a movie I haven't seen, but it's not like tackling, no pun intended,
Yeah.
sports from kind of like a high, a low, and a mid range. It is very
Yeah.
much a personal story because it's an A24 film. I
Right.
think one day there's going to be a Disney Fox version of this starring Mark Wahlberg, and it's going to get into the nitty gritty of all that stuff. But the one thing I will say, I agree, Jeff, it doesn't have the cachet of like football or baseball, but it's almost comparing apples to oranges because you're talking about something that has multiple like statewide teams competing on a national level and stadiums filling like 50,000 people or whatever every week. This is more of a like relegated to the pay-per-view kind of ghetto. It's like
Right.
it's much like boxing in that way. So it is far more culturally relevant than I think people might have expected, especially because it's so violent. I mean, you can go back to 1988 or 89 where Lloyd Dobler in Say Anything is talking about kickboxing, the sport of the future, and everyone's kind of laughing at like kickboxing. What does that even mean? And now it's part of UFC in some ways.
Yeah.
I don't want to like hash that up. My point is getting back to that. What I thought was the kind of tragedy of this whole film and the human drama of it is when we flash forward to Mark Kerr pushing that grocery cart. It is kind of funny, and he's not doddering, but he does have that kind of soft-spoken, demeanor, even though he's like got the body of this big guy. Even if he's a little bit older now, he still looks kind of intimidating. And then the title cards come up, and the last time we saw Dawn, she was being carted away in the back of a police car because she had attacked him in their home, and she had tried to end herself and all this other stuff. Actually ended herself twice in that scene. And so we figure, okay, finally they're breaking the spell of this relationship. He's going to go off and fight, loses the fight. She's not, really there, but it's okay because he doesn't need her anymore. He's had a breakthrough. And then the end titles come up and say, Mark and Dawn reunited in the year, 2001 or so, or shortly after his fight. And then they had a son and then they divorced 6 years later. I'm like, oh, this is so sad. That was almost worth it to me. I will say this movie does continue the tradition of 2025 opening title cards. I think set the movie up for failure because the opening titles for this movie are made for meatheads.
Yeah.
It's made for people who, it says this movie takes place between the years 1997 and 2000. I'm like,
find a way to put that into the film. This is the problem. The problem with this stuff, again, the first rule of movies, any screenwriting book will tell you, show, don't tell. And they tell all this stuff. Show it. Find a way to do it. Is it a title on the screen? Like this is the year, like they did in Boogie Nights. Now we're 1980. It's a New Year's Eve party or whatever else, things like that. And I don't know. Here's a question for both of you as you're kind of getting into this. And I'm not trying to take your job away from you, Ian, but
no.
My question is, what is the point of the film? Like, I think a lot of this was done very well. I think that, like I said, Dwayne Johnson's excellent in it. I felt for him, and I felt him all as well underneath that, knowing that he's actually a very good actor. And I think he's, been a charming star and funny in other things as well, maybe underrated across the board. But I would love to ask A24 or any of them, what is the point of this story? What are you saying about this man? And when you said Ian, it was like, well, that's not the story of him. Why isn't it? What is the story that makes him worthy and exciting? That he's got a bad girlfriend? Every other athlete has a bad girlfriend. I mean, we've seen this stuff before, and you said you're waiting something big to happen. Nothing really that big happens. He doesn't die. He doesn't get injured. He loses twice, but he goes on. And, his career didn't quite end. So I guess I'm watching this thinking, despite the fact that I feel for him because I think they're trying to say he's lonely and people don't get him, or he feels like he's not really being heard or seen. I mean, there's that early scene where, well, have you thought about losing? No, I haven't. Well, then he has to think about losing. And guess what? He's pretty good at it. He knows enough to pick himself up and go back to the gym and get reoriented towards it. He knows to tell his girlfriend to stay home and not get involved with him. And at the end, when he loses, he's pretty fine. He's even shown at the end to have survived divorce and everything else, and seems like a fairly happy man as he smiles and breaks the fourth wall. I just don't know what they were really putting forth here, because we don't go deep into any of it enough to seem like it really challenged or changed him. I don't see him changing much in this movie, and that's part of the basic arc of any screenwriting.
I think there was a change to him, and I think it's very subtle. And part of that goes back to the sports movie cliche, which was a reason, again, that I need to see this movie, because I kept, for as much as it kept making left turns when I was expecting it to go right, I couldn't quite escape the idea that I was smarter than this film. This movie secretly is also, and you might even say mainly, about Mark Coleman, who is Mark Kerr's best friend. Because this entire thing is building up. There's Kerr, Coleman, and a third guy. I don't remember his name. He was like Russian or something. They are kind of like duking it out in these various matches, and then they finally go up against each other in the big final, rounds of elimination. And it's building to, okay, it looks like Kerr and Coleman, these best friends, are going to have to fight each other. It's almost like if Maverick and Goose had to, fly, do a cat fight or something. And then what happens is Mark Kerr loses in a big way, and it's the second time he's lost. And both times that he loses is in like these really important, like, international spotlight events. They're not like, oh, he lost a sparring match someplace. It's like it's on TV. It's in front of all these fans who are there because he is the guy that doesn't lose. And to that point, he doesn't know how to process it. The scene where he loses that first fight, I thought was fantastic, because he crawls up out of the ring and he immediately marches backstage and he finds like the promoter, the manager of the event. He's like, look, that was nonsense, because that was an illegal move. Everybody saw it. It was an illegal move. You've got to do something. And you wonder, is this going to have an effect? And it did, to the point where he didn't win. It was simply called a draw.
Right.
But even that to him was losing, because it wasn't winning. Right. And everything that he's built up, and the success and the house and the life he's trying to put together, he's very much a man of solitude, but he also has a girlfriend, which kind of presents a problem, and she doesn't understand him. They have a terrible problem communicating with each other. And so by the end of the film, when he kind of learns to let go and be okay with the fact that even if he's down for the count, his friend is going to go on and get this tremendous amount of fame. And we as the audience have had just a few minutes at home with Mark Coleman and sees what this victory would mean to him and his family, even though we're supposed to be rooting for Mark Kerr because he's the hero of the film. Safdie pulls the rug out at the 0 hour, and I think really makes something kind of special, even if it's not the big rah-rah sports spectacle that we're used to.
No, I don't disagree with that scene and what you just said, but you've got an hour of the movie after that, and I don't think it ever tops that.
No, that was the very end of the film.
I mean the where he loses with the draw. But I mean,
right,
I think
it all leads back to the.
But I think that last thing is very anticlimactic. I don't think it has the weight that you say it does. It doesn't feel weighty the way it's done. I found most of it like, yeah, he's okay, and he's a stronger man and a smarter man and maybe more capable. Even when he was fighting with his girlfriend a couple of times, they thought he's going to hit her. He takes the door off in that one scene and smashes a couple other things here and there, but he doesn't. And he kind of calls the police and does the best thing, which is good. I mean, I think it's saying a lot about Mark, and you admire him for it, but I think it's a little bit dramatically inert as a full throttle movie.
And I appreciate that. And Katie, I'll let you get in because I know you want to jump in here, but I just want to capture something before it flies out of my head. Jeff, I think I agree with you, but I think that's sort of the point of the movie, but it's also not fair to count in the movie's plus column where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
Because what you're describing, like he almost hit her, but he doesn't. And he calls the police and it's the responsible thing instead of the cops having to show up because of a domestic disturbance. These are things that can be described in 100 sports films and like gangster films and all this other stuff.
Yeah, sure.
The abused spouse, the cops having to be called. Safdie flips almost every trope on its head in this movie. And it's almost like an exercise. Like, see, it doesn't have to go the way that you think it's going to go. But, and this might be the missing piece, where's the connective dramatic tissue in there? I got a lot out of this movie dramatically and kind of like emotionally. You didn't. And I totally understand that because it's not going to be for everyone, as is obviated by the box office. But maybe it's because I appreciate it more as an intellectual exercise than an emotional one. Sorry, Katie, go ahead.
So I think that the core of the movie is about addiction, because Mark Kerr is very much a people pleaser. He always wants to, he's an entertainer. He always wants to try and do this stuff with his girlfriend for the fans, even if it's to the detriment of himself. And it's also about the addiction that he has to painkillers and steroids and stuff, to the point where he goes to the hospital. What I would have liked, though, is that when he was in rehab for, going through this and in his recovery to get back, they then focused it on Coleman rather than what I feel like as an audience, we should have seen him going through, because when that's going on, Dawn, is away, his girlfriend, Emily Blunt, and he's trying to get back to where he needs to be. He wants to be the best. It's one of his big things is that he's never lost. And then when he does do that draw, that's a huge thing for him. But, it's very obvious that everyone around him can see the toxicity that he and Dawn inflict on each other, and that she's just not good for him, but they don't verbalize that with him. And again, that would be something, it's hard to tell people if you're in a bad relationship, and that you need to have her stay here. You don't want her to be around, because this is messing up your career. But it's like, because of that, I would have liked to have seen a little bit of how did they meet? What's going on? The fact that this is so bad in this time, they're still together. Where is the connect? It can't just be years. I wanted to see something that made me fall in love with them, made me see where the spark is. Like, we see the cute stuff. We see, he buys a bowl in Japan and then she smashes it, and then she puts it back together because she loves him. But I've just felt like there was something missing. And it's not because of the performances. As I stated, I think Dwayne does an amazing job. And honestly, yeah, I definitely feel like they're, he's going to be in the campaign for Oscar. I don't necessarily know if he's going to be in the 5th position, probably the 6th, but I think he's definitely got his name up there, and rightfully so. But again, it just, like before we started this, I wanted to see, it's like, okay, so then that last fight when he was out of the tournament, and he even says, like, pain is temporary and pride is forever. I wanted to see, it's like, so was that it? Is that done? But he kept on doing this for another 9 years, but then we don't see him for another 25. And I feel like I understand, like, especially, I feel like there's a number of transformative biopics regarding sports this year that really show, like, how these people, started the game. I mean, when he's in Japan and they're saying, like, these people are getting beat to a pulp. And it's like, okay, so I'm going to get $3,000. I laughed in the theater when that went on, because it's like, Jesus Christ, you are being pummeled, and that is what's going to happen. And even when he was talking to the promoter about this, they're like, I'm like, is he not even gonna? It's like, because I think about, we were talking about Conor McGregor and all that stuff. They're getting millions of dollars for these events. That is nothing. And of course, these are the people who, they break the waves, they open the doors, but they also, have them smashed in front of them because of, like, and, I talk to people like this about wrestling. Everyone thinks, like, oh, they're on TV, they make all this money. They don't have health insurance. They don't have this. It's like, it's all about the promotions. It's all about, what you get from promoters and the deals and all that stuff. It's not usually about the sport. It's like, and I don't know. I just felt like I wanted just a little bit more of, some of the relationships and stuff like that. Because, yeah, when he was in rehab, it went straight to Coleman. We see how he was doing stuff. Like, he has a wife and child, they're doing it, but he knows, I want this money for my family. I need to do this. This is what I'm focused on, and stuff like that. And then you see Mark Kerr and that. And I feel like that was kind of the thing. Like, this is supposed to be about Mark Kerr, but it's like, here's how you're supposed to do it, and here's how you're not. But it's just like a 3 year time period that I just really wish, again, I wanted to see more of like that beginning stuff with Dawn to understand how it got to be this toxic, that basically when he does go to Japan for that, his mind and heart are not in it. It's like they're so different with all of the skills that he learned in rehab, you know, to get to this point, to keep himself healthy and all that. And then for someone who's supposed to be your partner, and no, it's like for her, it's like, well, I can drink and I can do all this stuff. And I'm like, this is such a cliche, you know, like you went to rehab, not me kind of thing. It's like, oh Lord, it's like, and they've been together for so long. So I don't know. That was just, it was very frustrating for me to see. But again, not the performances and not the makeup, and actually not even the direction. I thought Benny Safdie did a great job with the fights, you know, focusing on Dwayne and Emily, you know, all that stuff. But there's some stuff in the story that I thought was missing.
Yeah, I understand. Again, I get where both of you are coming from. I didn't want to see the beginning of the relationship, because it would have been like every other sports and mafia movie that we've ever seen. We understand enough about where they're at to realize that it's not healthy. And we wonder, you know, I think the real demon of this thing, and Katie, I love that you zeroed in on the addiction, because he does go to rehab and he comes out and he's kind of like got his act together, we think. And so this is going to be his, you know, big championship, kind of like Rocky IV moment where he wins the big title and he has to go up against his friend and yada, yada, yada. But with that big fight going to, you know, right before he goes to Japan, and he like shaves his head and he's got that weird goatee, like undergoes this like big transformation, I think, to psych himself out, to say, I'm leaving, you know, all of this stuff behind. This is going to be like my big fight and everything, but he still can't get the Dawn situation out of his head. It almost like sets him back. It's not cocaine. It's his, you know, it's his girlfriend or his ex-girlfriend or whatever she is. So yeah, like a lot of this movie, and possibly too much of it, is going on inside Mark Kerr's head. And we're not really invited into that. We're left to infer a lot about these relationships. And I think I got to put this back on, it's an A24 film. It's more kind of like artsy. And this would be in a big, if this were a Paramount thing, then this would have had like another couple of rewrites to really make sure that they tightened up these beats and made them like obvious to everybody. And I think, again, that's part of the missing ingredient, the special sauce that they need. But yeah, that's why I love this movie. I was very satisfied walking out of it, but the further away I get from it, I'm like, there is something there that I just that didn't quite connect with me. I understand what it was going for, but that's the thing, is I had to interpret it on some level rather than appreciate the art as it was presented. Yeah, I think there's going to be another UFC movie, or maybe a dozen that come out, because you're right, all the business aspects of it and sort of the cultural stuff that was going on, and, you know, wrestling or competing for $3,000 seems insane, even 1998 money. But I do want to talk about one thing that I thought was kind of astonishing. They do the thing at the end where they show a montage of the real Mark Kerr during this time. I'm like, he was a kid. And I just looked up before we got on. He was born in 1968, which means he was 29 to 31 when he was being played by The Rock, who's in his 50s. I'm like, yeah, this that did not quite work out, because part of the thing, and that was another rug pull at the end of this, like as this movie was going on, I'm like, oh, this is a really interesting story, because this is about a guy who's like old and he's fighting, like, but it's not. He's supposed to be basically a kid, because he looks all baby faced and he looks like he's all of, you know, 22 in those pictures, but he's a little bit older.
God, I didn't even do the math on that. Yeah, because I knew it said he's like 55 now or something. It's like, but it's like, yikes, he was really, really young. So that's a good 20-year difference in like, hi, I'm Mark Kerr. It's like, what? AARP? What are you talking about? Not judging. Again, Dwayne Johnson did a great job.
I think you're onto something though, Ian, in that I think it's tricky to do a sports movie. because it's one of those, I think, very limited genres that has to have a big event, a big final sporting event to somehow be the climax of it. It's naturally baked in. And what story do you tell? The over the hill athlete, the guy who's the underdog, the guy who's got emotional problems and maybe can't focus. We've seen all that a lot, and I don't know if that's different than saying, well, we've seen dozens of detective movies and X, Y, and Z, but maybe adding a newer sport to it, one that I don't as much appreciate, probably is maybe wrong on my part. But I find that because of that, I'm looking for the other stuff to fill in more for me as a film goer who's seen something different. The personal journey. For example, when Dawn shows up and she's complaining about coming all the way over there, and she's wanting more respect, and he's literally minutes away from going out there, and it's a very good scene. I mean, it's a very tense scene, and you're kind of on edge about it, and you're thinking, Jesus Christ, this poor son of a bitch has to go out there and fight when he's already had the biggest fight of the night in the locker room. What's that going to do to him? And of course, it has some ramifications and stuff, but that begs the question of, like, who are these people? Why are they doing this? Why is she so fucking clueless that she's that way to him during a big match? I want to know who that person is. I don't want her just to be defined by, oh, cute outfit, nice fit body. She must go to the gym all day while she's sitting around waiting for her husband to come back from training. I don't know who she is. I think Emily Blunt is playing, she might be too smart of an actress in some ways for that kind of character. You can see that there's something smart going on with Emily Blunt's eyes when she acts that I don't think is this character. Maybe that's a harsh judgment, but I think she's here because of Oppenheimer and her relationship with
Jungle Cruise.
Jungle Cruise, yes, of course. Yeah. But no, they have a good rapport, I think. But those are the places where I wanted more in-depth examination. They're in this house, and he takes the door off, and he's mad, and he goes to rehab, and he's handling all those things fairly well. I mean, it's not like it ever becomes this true moment of stakes. I felt the stakes were a little light here, and I think they would have been enhanced by showing the volatility that he's got in his head because of all these things, whether it's a sport that's not legitimate yet, the only $3,000, you could get really hurt, there's blood, the rules are cockamamie, you're in a foreign country, and you've got a girlfriend who maybe is hanging on to you for the promise of great money, or because you're a celebrity of sorts, but I don't know. I mean, I'm waiting for more of that to get filled in and see how that really affects him. I felt in some respects this film, and I know this is going to sound cruel, but I don't mean it to, because a lot of movie I like. I was more interested in how Dwayne Johnson was succeeding in this film than how the character was.
And I think that's fair. And again, I think going back to what I'd said earlier about this, a lot of this being under the surface, is I think you touched on it, Jeff. The key component in the problem with the relationship with Mark and Dawn is a lack of communication. I think one of those, the reason for that is Mark Kerr is afraid of what's inside of him, because it does come out in that fight before they go to Japan. She's all like, you want to hit me and all this stuff. He's like, no, I don't want to hit you. And she's like goading him and riling him up. And you can see him getting madder and madder and madder. And that's an extension of the scene from before that first fight when he lost, when she shows up to Japan and he is not acknowledging her because he's trying to get in the zone, but he doesn't want to, he feels like he doesn't want to be the asshole jock guy to say, look, I got to get in my space, because she even makes fun of his wrestling. She says, oh, you're going to go and do your little wrestling shows and all this other stuff. She doesn't take it seriously as a sport, which I think, again, a big studio second draft would have said, let's bring that kind of outside world dismissal, that kickboxing is the sport of the future stuff, into this story a bit more, where he's fighting not only for his career, but for the legitimacy of something that people don't consider legitimate. I agree with there. But I think what I responded to, not on as emotional level, more of an intellectual level, is what this movie was saying about the different kinds of toxic relationships. He's trying to be a nice guy, but he's got this monster inside of him that is still undefined, even possibly to him. And it's not helped by the fact that he has a steroid addiction, which we know brings up, roid rage is a phrase for a reason, but he's constantly trying to control that and mask that underneath this kind of calm, nice guy demeanor. That scene in the doctor's office waiting room with the little kid and the grandmother that's in the trailer, that's a great scene. And you're almost waiting to find out, oh, that's just the public persona Mark, but the real guy's a real animal. He does have an animal inside of him, but he's not a bad guy. There's this constant conflict that's running through this movie, and I think there's just stumbles as it's getting over that finish line a bit to bring it all together, and that's the frustration.
Yeah, I like those scenes a lot more too, Ian. Like even the scene before he's talking to the grandmother in her in the waiting room when he's trying to convince the doctor to write the prescription, and he's like, well, but you're going to do it, like he's just like, this is good. I'm going to charm him into doing this. And he's probably charmed many people into many things because he knows how to play that game and become a celebrity and, do the interviews and smile even when they're insulting him and all that kind of stuff. So I like that. And maybe the drama here is that he doesn't ever really break. They try. There's a lot of things trying to break him, from his girlfriend to the losses and aging and the roid rage and the toll it takes on the body, let alone the blood and all that. I mean, it's just unseemly in many respects, but he doesn't. So that's admirable. And I think you admire the character for it. I think you're hitting it on, though, and maybe personifying my exactness better than I am, as I felt that it needed just a little more oomph to some of that stuff. I'm not necessarily, and that's what Katie's saying too. It's like, you've got a good first draft here. I think let's deepen it for that second one.
I don't get that punch in the gut. I didn't get that teary-eyed thing that that a lot of other biopics, because one of the things with biopics, it's like someone struggles, someone like overcomes, they achieve something, they have this canon event in their life and they make it to the other side. And I just didn't get that we saw that as an audience. I feel like there's a number of things that happened that sucked. Like, I mean, obviously I don't want someone to OD, rehab is hard, all the physical trauma that he endured. And, again, with addiction, he is a people pleaser. He just always kept wanting to do, it's like he wanted to please the audience. He wanted to please the promoters. He wanted to please his girlfriend, even to the detriment of himself. And that is an addiction. But I didn't get that, like at the end, it's like, oh, he did it and stuff like that. And that is, I don't want to say it's a disappointment. It's just that, it was fine. But I know you keep saying stuff about A24 and stuff like that. I mean, look, I liked the Iron Claw. I thought that there was a number of things in that, film 2 years ago that had so many ups and downs, and what that family went through. And I thought A24 as a studio did a great job with that. I do know that it was a number like that. I think that was like the 4th, 5th draft that they did before it went out. So I do think you have a good point that maybe they just needed another go round to do this. But yeah, I just didn't have that thing. Like, I'll probably hold on to this shirt more than I will the memory of the film. And that's the thing. But I do think that, I don't know. I think he's definitely going to get I think he's going to get nominated for a Golden Globe.
It's early. We haven't seen 2-3 months of movies, Katie.
Yeah,
Let's not worry about that yet. I
And
mean, they'll
they're
pick him as the
still-
5th or 6th person on the list. We haven't even seen 10, 20 films that might be in the mix, so I'm not so sure
I'm just predicting that I think they'll probably he'll probably get nominated for a Golden Globe.
Well, Damn, I just lost.
Can I say one thing I would like to offer, because I think you're on to something that is a bigger topic here. I think what is very difficult to do, in addition to finding sort of the new beats or the stuff that isn't so cliche in sports biopics or genre, the sports genre as films go, I think the biopic is a very tricky thing to do, and most fail because they do not know what part of the story to concentrate on that speaks to the bigger person. It's done very rarely. And most of them try to do a cradle to grave because they want to say, well, that's the story of the person. We're going to show all that. Sometimes it succeeds. I think one of the best versions of a movie biopic ever was Capote. it was concentrating on him writing in cold blood. And ultimately what it revealed is that it became more about him wanting to become famous than get the true story of the true crime. And ultimately that's what killed Truman Capote. Is he never got past the viciousness, the pettiness, the egotism of being a celebrity. That ruined him. It ruined his writing, it ruined his health. And I'm not saying you have to be that simplistic in it, but that worked because this is where it started. And the taste of fame that he was getting from that, and people were waiting for it, and they knew he was writing his excerpts. They were spooling out in the magazines and stuff like that. It went to his head. And by the end, when he's just, he's all but saying, well, they killed them already, so I have an ending to my book. Wow. And here he's trying to be a journalist, and that was not journalism. That was celebrity. Here, I'm not sure what it is. In Iron Claw, I would argue that at least there, it was, this is a fake sport, but your family's real. And even as bad as they are, the good part of your family is what you should be concentrating on, because the other stuff is all artificial. Even if you think, well, I should have been the person to be chosen to be the star of this, like, it's a fake sport. I'm not going to feel too sympathetic for you. But at the end, when he realizes what is worth fighting for, it's not the shit in the ring, it's the shit outside the ring. And here, I think the troubled girlfriend hurts that, because I think maybe what it ultimately is saying, he's in fighting for himself as an individual, but it's a little not as finely sort of tuned as some of those other examples I just mentioned, because I think, he does stay with her and we're sort of got happy music. But then, oh, wait a minute, he divorced. It's like the ending of Animal House with Boone and Katie, they get married, then they get divorced.
Well, I think
so it ended up with them.
Well, a couple of things. First, I want to confess I missed the Iron Claw. I wanted to see if I never caught up with it. The other thing is, when I'm talking about A24, it's essentially kind of a shorthand just to say that it's not a Paramount or a Disney movie where it's got that kind of like, we're trying to think in 4 quadrants. This is definitely a different kind of movie. And I'm almost wondering, because they could have, I don't know if they shopped this to other places or if this was all in the kind of the original intent of it. So it was made as an A24 type project, but it almost seems like, hey, this is the movie, much like Mark Kerr, that is going to push the story of the UFC into the mainstream. Like, hey, this was created by, real people doing the real dirty work, and they had real drama and emotions and all this stuff. It's a real art house film. So we've got our art house movie, and it's going to be up for awards, and people are going to respect us, much like, Dwayne Johnson is probably hoping for this awards thing. But the contrast, I would say to you, Jeff, with the example of In Cold Blood and the Iron Claw, even though I haven't seen it, those and Mark Kerr, these are all 3 very different kinds of stories. So the truth of and even though they're adapted and run through the Hollywood screenplay sausage machine, they do have very different outcomes to those stories. So it's possible that this was the extent to which Mark Kerr and his drama was interesting.
Yeah, maybe.
Benny Safdie may have told the most compelling version of this story. And that's kind of okay. And Katie, I get what you're saying about that, not wanting that final gut punch. And I'm going to go back to my meta conspiracy theory that they just wanted to subvert every expectation, because every sports movie has that, like, even if it's not at the very end, it's usually at the end of the climactic fight or the game or whatever. You're like, yes, I feel whole. And like, I want to go out and conquer the world, and I'm the underdog and screw the man. But they don't really have that here. I think the closest you get to a gut punch for me was the scene where after Kerr ODs and he's in the hospital, and then Mark Coleman flies out and he goes into the hospital and he sees his friend, and he's, the guy's like missing teeth and he's all completely messed up. Mark is like, so, hey, how's it going, buddy? And like he's like just being his outer self. And then Coleman says something like, cut the shit, or what's going on, man? Something really subtle like that, but it's just the ice pick that shatters, the entire frame and just like causes it to break away. And we see Johnson like break down as Mark Kerr. I thought that was amazing. I thought it was a really great feat of acting. And unfortunately, that's probably going to be the Oscar clip.
Oh, it is. That would definitely be it. I mean, I know not all sports biopics are going to be Raging Bull. And that's not what I was expecting. I was just, because I didn't know anything about Raging Bull until, I saw it. And that's the thing with Mark Kerr. I knew nothing about him until I saw this, but I just wanted to see why I needed to see his story and what I did. But again, with pioneers and anything that you do, they're gonna have the hardest and hit the most, because it's like they're the first, and the first don't get the accolades they deserve. They don't get the plaques until it's like 25 years later, and they're all like, that's great, but I really would have liked this when I needed this money, and could have put kids through college and stuff like that. But I mean, again, I don't know. I think this is just more about Dwayne's performance. And I will say this though, and I said at the beginning, look, the makeup, it's if he doesn't get nominated for actor, which I know it's few and far between, I do think that the makeup in this is going to get nominated. I think that this is a really great job. And I know, I think the makeup was nominated in Iron Claw. With this, again, like I said, I could not, he was in a lineup in a few scenes, and I honestly, okay, here's a bunch of guys. I'm like, oh shit, that was Dwayne Johnson. I did not recognize him. And I mean, this is The Rock. It's not like you just don't know. It's like, who is that guy? I don't know. I mean, it's for them to completely do that with him, I think was like really, really incredible. So even if none of the acting or anything like that, I do think it's going to get nominated for Best Makeup.
Yeah, I think they did a great job with the transformation. It was weird because it was almost like looking at AI, like when they have an AI animation of a celebrity and it kind of looks like them, but then they turn and it's like, it's changing. I felt almost like that way in reverse. I saw a lot of Mark Kerr, or whatever they were trying to do with that makeup, because when you see the real guy at the end, you're like, it's an approximation built on top of The Rock's face, but it still does a good job of hiding that Dwayne Johnson-ness.
Yes.
But then every once in a while, he'd turn at an angle. I'm like, oh, there he is. And then he'd keep turning. It's almost like when his head is in motion, you catch a glimpse of the real guy popping through, and then it's gone.
It's like
I would have taken the creative license and not have him shave his head. That's when he started to look like him.
Well, I don't know. It's like the way they
You
did
can't
his
change
brow
your
and his nose. I mean, yeah.
But I mean, that's the first place I was aware. That's Dwayne Johnson, because it looks more like Dwayne Johnson now. I wouldn't have cut his hair for it. I think it was a wrong choice.
But maybe it's accurate to the real life.
See, it doesn't have to be accurate.
Yeah.
Why not?
Well, because they take license. I would have taken that license. It's like, nope, it's going to look like The Rock because that's his look.
Well, it sounds like we all would have taken a lot more license to make this. It's strange because it's almost like they say cliches they work for a reason. And maybe if there'd been a bit more lack of originality in this movie, it could have filled in some of those gaps with the things, like they almost took a bit too much out of the story to make it satisfying. But all right, we are going to breeze, and I mean breeze, because oh my goodness, I don't even know if we have time for all these comments. We're going to try.
Oh, really? Oh.
They're all Sajiwa.
Oh, okay.
My Wednesday night break before heading out to get Carvel treats before they close at 11 p.m. This is Sajiwa's autobiography, his biopic. And this show worked out well. 9 p.m. break, so here's for the show. Some local filmmakers worked on this movie, heard good things about it. Joe Rogan likes it a lot, so it'll make $100 million eventually over the next 10 years. Eventually. I've not seen it yet. I did not fight in the UFC in the 1980s. However, I'm a fan of the current champ, Chama, Alex Pereira, amazing dude. Lots of people said Dwayne Johnson did some real acting in this movie, not just a huge Hollywood movie star, physically huge wrestler guy, lighting, acting, but into real acting. Actually, that's a side note here. He is massive in this movie, but he must have shot this a couple of years ago, because I saw him on like CBS Sunday Morning. They did a profile of him a couple weeks ago, and he's got that, not that Ozempic slim. He doesn't have that look, but he's got that like majorly trimmed down, and he's small. It really looks like like Ruffalo to the Hulk. It's crazy. Going from being a huge movie star into real acting in an indie type movie, well, a well-regarded indie director. Yep. UFC is a big biz now. The person back in the day fought for little money, but created the biz that made us a lot of money now. So I think that was the reason for showing his life, how he ended up, etc. Yep.
Yeah.
I think it would be tough to live with Emily Blunt. One of the reasons that I have not done it. Maybe yet. Okay. I'm sure that's the reason, Sujiwa. Benny Safdie said he got Emily Blunt to contact DJ about the movie when Safdie and Blunt were working together on Oppenheimer. Oh, that's right. He was in Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
Projects take forever and happen in weird ways. Blunt liking Safdie's indie films and knowing DJ made the connection and deals possible. So they said in interviews. This is all good context. Alex Pereira of the UFC is amazing. He beat his most recent opponent in 1 minute and 25 seconds. Yikes.
Wow.
The PTA version of the story will have more details, but will be 10 times more depressing. There you go. Oh, that'll be one head blow after another. Is the movie similar to Raging Bull? I'm the wrong person to ask about that.
No, it's just that it's a sports biopic about a real person. So that's the thing.
Well, I'm also the one person on that planet that absolutely detests Raging Bull. I hate that movie. Well, I enjoyed Raging Bull. Here we go. I felt this was a long time ago, the same way about why we were watching a doc-like movie about the boxer, but regardless, that was a good movie. From what I hear, Smashing Machine is a Raging Bull type focus, real life heavy on the life of the fighter and person, might be interesting as such. So maybe a movie only for some. We'll see it. I will say Raging Bull is, far more artistic. I mean, it's a beautiful movie to listen to look at and to experience. There's not as much like artistry in here. Certainly not as much as the Safdie brothers Uncut Gems. Yeah. Ian Simmons now ready for his next career as a rough and tumble UFC fighter. The Kick Seat Machine. Yeah, that's me.
I'm
gonna shave my head. Look out for the goatee soon. The other Safdie Bros sports movie looks very good. Marty Supreme just had a secret screening at the New York Film Festival. I do want to see that. That's the chess one, right? With
Ping Pong.
Chalamet. Oh, Ping Pong. Yeah. Why did I say
table
chess?
tennis?
Ding dong.
I think because before it's revealed that he was playing ping pong, I thought it was a chess movie. DJ probably changed his career for the better by being in this movie. Now he can do an endless amount of indie dramas. He does not need Hollywood money anymore, so it'll all work out. There you go. The Lost Bus is very good. Not sure if you guys talked about it. Not yet. DJ has like $800 million, so yeah, we'll see him in any more indie movies. He's set for money. Maybe DJ is the Hulk in the future also. Well, he kind of tied his wagon to DC for like a minute and a half, so I don't know if that's going to happen. Making up for Red Notice. Can anyone make up for Red Notice?
No, not quite.
Oh, hey guys, how are you getting along with the guys in green? What do you think of The Rock's incredible physical transformation and all the hate he gets for his current physique? No more candy? Don't know what that means.
Drugs?
That's a lot.
That was a lot of comments.
That was, yeah. And we got through all of them in a few minutes. So thank you, Sujiwa. Any closing words, gang, on the Smashing Machine? I think that's all we need.
You probably said a lot. I think we covered it pretty well.
Yeah. Well, it's a weird movie and a strange conversation, but I think a robust one. And I appreciate you both and everyone out there indulging me as I have my therapeutic talk through of this, and you helping me to unpack it by pointing out my blind spots here. You gave me a lot to think about. So when I watch this movie again, I might come away and report back and say, yeah, I was really a little too high on this thing, but who knows?
Either that, or you could say, go to hell. It's like, you guys are wrong. Who knows?
I might say you're wrong because I love doing that. My ego is massive and my insecurities are even greater. But yeah. Anyhow, love you guys. I am Ian Simmons of Kicking the Seat, Katie Glidewell, the blonde in front, Jeff York of The Establishing Shot, and Pipeline Artist. Thank you both very much. Join us back next week for Tron Ares. We're going to talk about Tron Ares again. Big studio Disney product, which I would love to have seen the A24 version of Tron Ares. How about that? But yeah, we'll be back 8 o'clock Central next Wednesday night. Please support all of Earth's Mightiest Critics. Their information is down below. If you like this live stream, please like, subscribe, ring the bell for notification, and all that business. And until next time, whenever that is, whatever that is, thank you very much and take care. Should have had a